Hello, my name is Tijana and I'm a strategy associate here at Nomad Capitalist. Today we will be talking about the US. This time we're not going to be talking about the citizenship-based taxation. We're going to be talking about how the US taxes foreigners. So if you're a foreigner and you are doing business in the US, or you are in any way connected to the US by purchasing stocks, real estate, having any assets located in the US, be sure that they will be taxing you even though you're not residing there. So let's say if you are a foreigner who has a company that is located outside of the US, however, you are providing services on the ground in the US. You are going to be liable for federal tax. That would be about 21% if you're not in the country with a tax treaty. And in addition to that, there would be additional taxation depending on the state that you are doing business in. And there would be also branch profit tax if you are distributing funds without reinvesting in the business itself. In addition to this, if you are in a tax treaty country, there are differences where you could be reducing your tax. Let's say if you are a resident of Ireland that has a 12.5% taxation and a double tax treaty with the US, you would be claiming treaty rights by only paying the 12.5 in Ireland while not being taxed by the US. But make sure that your business has to be incorporated in the country. You as a shareholder, or at least 51% of ownership has to be in Ireland, and all the control and management has to be there. Otherwise, it would be treaty shopping. Same goes along the lines when we're talking about Cyprus and having a company in Cyprus and paying 12.5% with a double tax treaty claim. And the only thing that has to be done is filing a form to notify IRS that there was a claim of the double tax treaty. But make sure that your structure is done properly and everything is covered on your end to make sure you're not double taxed in two countries, as that sometimes can be a problem. Second thing is when you have a company located in the US, let's say you have heard of Delaware, you have heard of Arizona, Nevada as being very tax-friendly countries, sometimes you might not be aware if you are forming a C Corp or an LLC. Now, LLC is a partnership that is going to be just protecting you from the liability, but if you go ahead and create a C Corp, then you're making it liable for any income that is earned. Doesn't matter if it's in the US or outside, it would be liable for the federal tax. If you have an LLC, however, and you're conducting business outside of the US, you would not be paying any US taxes because it would not be income derived from the United States. Now, another thing individuals who are outside of the US should be aware of is simply owning assets in the US. Let's say you want to have a vacation home in Florida, you would want to invest in stocks, let's say in some of the big companies, and you might not even be aware that the stocks you're investing in are located in the US. When it comes to estate tax, no matter where you are living or your children or whoever inherits your assets is, there will be estate tax imposed on them when they're inheriting your assets. And this estate tax would be progressive up to 40%. And this is something that, let's say, perhaps the advice would be not to invest directly in the US, but perhaps go somewhere else. When you're investing in stocks, let's say one of the popular ones would be Interactive Brokers. They have Interactive Brokers located in the US, but they also have branches that are all across Europe. So why would you risk having invested in the US and later on having the estate tax when you can just do the same with your account being based somewhere in Europe? So maybe you're one of the lucky ones who has an ESTA, which would be a visa waiver to enter the US. Now, having an ESTA doesn't mean that you cannot become a tax resident if you don't have a green card, a work visa, or a passport in the US. If you overstay your days in the US, you can easily be dragged into the US tax nexus and be liable for tax on the worldwide basis. In most countries, when we talk about a tax residence and residence, you will notice that you have to be in the country for 183 days on an annual level to be claimed a tax resident of that country. Now, in the US, there is a specific formula that is based on the last 3 years you have spent in the US. Now, the number of days is 183, but it would be a cumulative amount of days in the past 3 years. And it works like this. Let's say for now, for the year 2023, I'm spending 90 days in the US. Those days, each day is counted as 1 day. So in total, for now, I have 90 days. Last year, if I have spent 60 days, it's going to be divided by 3. So that would be 60 over 3 that is 20. So with those 90 that I already have and those 20, then I have 10. If in the year before that I have spent, let's say, 80 days in the US, it would go over 9, and those days would be adding up to see if in total you're getting the number 183. If you're below that number, you will not be liable for taxation. However, if you do go over it, you could be dragged into the tax nexus. Of course, in addition to this rule, you have to make sure you're not spending more than 6 months in the US, as they would be claiming you're resident, both on federal and state level. This is why certain visa types, like let's say a student visa, would exempt you from this, as your sole purpose for being in the US would be to study. Any other visa, like a visitor visa, is for visits of up to 180 days, just because they would be claiming you a resident if you remain longer than that. If you have a visa waiver, that will only allow you to be in the country for 90 days, and you would have to leave and then come back. So you have to make sure you record all of your visits to the US if you're spending extensive amounts of time, in order to make sure you don't become a tax resident without even having the passport and the benefits of it. So on our channel, we do talk quite a lot about US citizens and the taxation the US imposes on them. So this video was a little bit different, where even if you're not a US citizen, these videos can be useful to know what to expect if in case you ever overstay your limit of days spent in the US. So if you would want to learn more, go to our webpage, nomadcapitalist.com. And if you are doing business in the US, you have assets in the US, and you need help restructuring this and having a proper structure, you can be reaching out to us and applying to become our client. Thank you for watching.